That's right, y'all, it is Halloween Eve, and in the words of Mama Firefly,
Y'all just think you're too good for the simple pleasures of Halloween. Well, I know that you think it is childish. Tonight is Halloween Eve. And to us, it is special.
there is no better day other than today than to celebrate the content that pops off the most on my channel, other than Tales from the Crypt, and that is Rob Zombie's Fireflies, from House of a Thousand Corpses all the way from 3 to Hell. I have an entire playlist based on this horrendous family of macabre maniacs, and I'm going to showcase 3 of the videos today. Consider this a little binge episode because we're going to have a lot more coming soon. And for, Halloween Eve and Halloween, if you want to celebrate, pop open some candies, listen to some spooky music in this chilly weather, watch this entire House of a Thousand Corpses playlist, and have some fun, but most importantly, come hang out with me. Welcome to the ultimate Firefly ranking video. That's right, I'm gonna take every single damn Firefly family member and I'm gonna put them in a bracket, and we're gonna find out who's the sickest, most sadistic, and wickedest one of them all. What up, y'all? Welcome back to Phantom of the Indie Review. I am your host, Driftwood Dill. Here at Drip Dread, we are a community. We like to spook each other with scary tales. We like to hide under the blankets and just be scared. If you like talking horror stuff, specifically things from the 90s and 2000s, nostalgia baby, and if you want to take your mama home some fried chicken, come hang out. I'd like to say at this point in time, y'all have come to know and love me as a Firefly family connoisseur, my in-depth reviews on their character studies, me talking about pivotal scenes from House of a Thousand Corpses, and don't get me wrong, I know I haven't done 3 from Hell and Devil's Rejects yet, but after this video, they are on the list. This is the house, come on in. This is the house, give it, yeah. The Fireflies are potentially one of the most deranged families in all of horror cinema. They are up there along the lines of the Hewitt/Sawyers, whatever you refer to the Texas Chainsaw Massacre family as. The Odettes from Wrong Turn. Dare I even say the Sanderson sisters? No, but seriously, there are so many horror family icons out there, and I feel like this one to me means the most to me. So I feel like I gotta be the one to rank them. If you don't like this list, get off my lap. Comment down below what your list is and tell me how wrong I am. We have 10 individuals to go into the gauntlet. Let me name them for you. Baby Firefly, Otis B. Driftwood, Captain Spaulding, Tiny, Rufus, Mama Firefly, Foxy Coltrane, the Professor Earl, Hugo, aka Grandpa, and because I needed one more family member, I'm going to add in Dr. Satan because he's essentially a part of the family. What are you going to do about it? And we're going to do a bracket list to determine who is the greatest of them all. Round 1, Baby Firefly versus Hugo, the grandfather. Hugo is a very interesting character in my opinion. Rob Zombie initially planned for Hugo to be the lore behind Dr. Satan dressing up and killing people, but then the movie took a more supernatural turn. We got more of a comic relief from Grandpa with the epic showmanship of his stand-up comedy routine that Jerry seemed to love. He just had no filter. Every scene he was in, he was pretty hilarious. And I do wish he was a little bit more creepy throughout the movie. I feel like he was the more innocent one of the family. Maybe he was the mastermind behind it all, but we didn't get really any ruthless kills from him. And then we got baby Vera Ellen Firefly, the sweetest angel of hell. From her introduction as the hitchhiker to her slow unraveling of being way more crazier than you could ever depict, I feel like she is a jack of all trades. In the realm of torture and torment, she's got the seduction factor, the innocence. She looks very average, but she might be the most sickest of them all. And we can see her brutality evolve throughout the film as she targets Bill, then Jerry, then Mary. She just seems to be all over the place at once. And that's why for this first round, there aren't going to be no upset. I got to go with Baby Firefly. Round 2, Tiny Firefly versus Dr. Satan. Dr. Satan. Tiny is the unsung hero of the Firefly family. He had the more tragic past, being burned alive and almost killed by his father, Earl. And though he is the most disturbing looking physically, he looks like a giant monster, he might have the most range of emotions, the most sympathy, how he tries to let Denise free. Even in the Devil's Rejects, he's very silent, but you can see his emotions on the sleeves. And yes, he does help the rest of the Fireflies do evil things. He's more of the patsy. His loyalty to the family and dedication is very profound, even the fact that, his father almost killed him. And then the other one, the dark horse of the tournament, because they're not really a Firefly family member, is Dr. Satan. I did a video about the lore and how haunting he is from his story, his backstory of being a brain surgeon that experiments on people to getting killed, and then his ghost haunts the Rugsville rural area. To me, he has one of the most jaw-dropping standout scenes when we see him at the end of House of a Thousand Corpses. Very scary, very surreal, and sardonic. And I do wish throughout the franchise, or maybe a spin-off movie, he got more of the love he deserved because he's such a fascinating character. But between these two, I'm going to have to go with Dr. Satan, because even though Tiny is in The Devil's Rejects, I feel like Dr. Satan made more of an imprint on the franchise. Round 3, Rufus vs. Foxy Coltrane. Rufus is the big silent brute type, very similar to Tiny in a way where he doesn't talk much. I mean, he has a few lines throughout the movie, and he helps the family do diabolical stuff. He's the one that shoots a tire that makes the kids break down and get led to the House of a Thousand Corpses. And his role on The Devil's Rejects was very minimal. And he does help defend the house from when the family raids and tries to kill all the Firefly family members. So that's mad props. Tiny, I don't think he would do that. And Rufus fights alone wholeheartedly to try to save his family, and he gets shot and killed by Wydell. And it's very tragic. I mean, he really put his life on the line for the Firefly families. That's noble in itself. That gets a lot of props. But in House of a Thousand Corpses, he doesn't do that much. You know, he runs the tow truck, even though he does use the tow truck to remove and hide the victims' vehicles. But for the most part, he just chills around the Firefly farmhouse. And then there's Foxy Coltrane, potentially one of my favorite entries of the Firefly families, even though he comes so late in in Three from Hell. Foxy is Otis's brother, and he helps Otis escape from prison. And then and he plans to free Baby as well, even though he's not in the first two movies. And I feel like the absence of Sid Haig, Captain Spaulding, from being very sick and elderly during the filming of this movie, I feel like he was a great addition. We've seen Richard Brake, his performance in 31, Halloween 2, and being added on to Three from Hell, I feel like it brought a new meaning to the title, because obviously Three from Hell is Baby, Otis, and Captain Spaulding, but with the very little runtime of Captain Spaulding, I feel like Foxy made up his own and gave a creative, different, and fulfilling performance. And Foxy Coltrane is balls to the wall. He is loyal to the family. He's very funny, very brutal, and very sickening. Between Winslow and Rufus, who do I got to give it to? I'm going to be real with you. I think I'm going to give it to Rufus because of his sacrifice to the Fireflies in the first one. Yes, Foxy does help Otis and Baby a lot in Three from Hell, but Rufus sacrificed his life for his whole family, dude, for his legacy, for his bloodline, and that's beautiful. Round 4, Mama Firefly versus Otis B. Driftwood. Mama Firefly, who has a child with Captain Spaulding, their child being Baby, she is just as deranged and sick as Baby, and obviously Baby got all of her psychotic craze from her mother, especially in part 2 when we get that interrogation scene played by a different actress because Karen Black passed away. Both portrayals of Mama Firefly are very sardonic and very interesting and very subtly crazy. I love her little monologue in House of a Thousand Corpses where she's celebrating Halloween and talking about how special it is. She is so funny, so redneck, so hillbilly-like in the first movie. She really brightens up the few scenes she has. Otis, obviously the mastermind behind the Fireflies, when he drifted into Rugsville and kind of took over the family, he became the most pivotal family member with the most diabolical intentions. I feel like Otis Firefly might be personally my favorite. Does that mean he's going to win? No. I'm trying to rank this based off their Firefly family nature more so than my preferences, but Otis Firefly, he is awesome. He is scary. He has that more cartoonish look in the first movie, and then as the franchise evolves, he becomes more serious and demented and diabolical. And a lot like Baby, he becomes more rational, and you get more involvement of his feelings too. He kind of develops as a character. In the first movie, House of a Thousand Corpses, he is very sadistic. There's that iconic fish boy scene, the Who's Your Daddy scene, when he wears that white face paint with a cross on his head. He has just so many different iconic moments in this movie that you just can't knock. And for that reason alone, I gotta give Otis the win over Mama, even though Mama is great. Round 5, we got Captain Spaulding versus the Professor Earl. We know with Earl, he has very little runtime, hand in hand with Tiny, because he up and went crazy one day and set Tiny on fire, tried to kill him. But then with the ultimate plot twist we see towards the end when we get the reveal of Dr. Satan, that he is kind of Dr. Satan's henchman, and his look and design is just awesome. He's got the gas mask on, he's all burnt and decrepit, has a giant axe or whatever. Very scary and haunting looking, but like Dr. Satan, he doesn't transition into the franchise more. And then Captain Spaulding, he is pretty much the mastermind, right? If so, more so than Otis, by how he lures people to the Firefly farmhouse, how he acts all innocent. You know, he's got the clown demeanor, he's funny, he's goofy, he's charming, but he's just as wicked as them all. As the franchise evolves, we see that his relationship with Baby is more deep and caring than you would ever expect it to be. And Three from Hell, he has a very small scene, but it's a very deep and interesting scene, and it really adds to his legacy and character. But all around, Captain Spaulding is very scary and distinct and one of a kind. So with that being said, I gotta give the round to Captain Spaulding. Now we are in the conference finals. We're gonna have Baby versus Dr. Satan, and then the triple threat to get to the championship. Rufus versus Otis versus Spaulding. Baby just goes to show her range and versatility throughout the franchise. I feel like every single movie, she enhances her performance more, especially in Three from Hell. You start to feel for her more. She has, even though she's so far gone mentally and tormented from her past, she's ruthless and gives no shits at all. But even when she's doing all these crazy killings, she kills some people that you feel like is justified. She's killing them because she is almost making a victim out of herself, and it's very poetic and different. So from House of a Thousand Corpses being like the sporadic crazy one to slowly showing more and more throughout the franchise how important she is, I feel like she just keeps evolving to be better. That's why I made a video about her called The Evolution of Baby Firefly. Dr. Satan, I don't care what you say, how little his runtime is, he's still iconic. He's the number one thing that scared me about that franchise when I was a kid. I remember seeing him. Every time they got to that well scene where it would build up, I'd be terrified because I knew they were about to show Dr. Satan. I gotta go with Baby for this round. And then only one of these three from Hell are gonna make it to the championship. And you're thinking, what? Otis versus Spaulding? That alone is a juggernaut main event that you can't even fathom. I know we're this close to the championship, and I'm not trying to be a sellout, but I don't really have that much to say about Rufus. I don't know how he got this far into it, other than the fact that he sacrificed himself for his family. Other than that, he's a mid character. Otis, again, the drifter, the lone showman, the one that kind of puppet masters the entire family. He runs along and does all the crazy stuff. And I feel like it comes down to Otis and Spaulding, because as the Devil's Rejects progress, we get more of a roller coaster between the characters. We meet Captain Spaulding's brother Charlie. Otis, he does some really crazy stuff, sickening stuff, has some great monologues showing that he is evil reincarnated essentially, and they both go hand in hand. In contrast, I feel like they're the perfect dichotomy of characters. But in my humble opinion, I have to move Otis on to the championship. And now we are in the final round. I'm sorry for all the people that saw me get rid of Captain Spaulding. If you're mad at me, still like the video though and subscribe, because I'll make it up to you when I make a video saying that I suck and Captain Spaulding's a GOAT. The championship, however, is Baby versus Otis. These two are very symbolic with each other, and I spoke so much about them. But and as far as the entire franchise goes, their legacy evolves more and more between the two, from House of a Thousand Corpses to Devil's Rejects to Three from Hell. You learn more about them. They have side pieces and quests. They both have some vicious kills, even though Otis has some more kills. But the ones Baby does are way brutal, like Mary from House of a Thousand Corpses. But Otis has some very insane kills as well. And he's kind of the mastermind behind it all. But even though he is the mastermind, Baby seems to have... Baby doesn't give much cares about what Otis thinks. I mean, Baby cares about what Otis thinks, but at the same time, she is her own woman. She can do what she wants. And I feel like this all comes down to a very heartbreaking reveal for me, because I love them both equally. Otis, like I said, he's my personal favorite. I feel like he is the most scary. He's the most visceral. He has great monologues. He's intense. His relationship with Foxy is very endearing, and he is the backbone of the family. And then you have Baby. I feel like Baby has a lot to offer. Like I said, she's the more normal looking one in the family, so she can get away with more. Her relationship with her father, Captain Spaulding, is lovely as well. And throughout the three movies, she evolves and unfolds to be a more rounded character. So with that being said, I have to give the win to Baby Firefly. Guys, I really hope you agree with some of these picks for me. At the end of the day, it's all preference. This is just my opinion. I would love to know in the comments below what your guys' preference is. Who do you think the best Firefly family member is? You can't say Rufus. You can't. Talking about iconic horror villains that don't get enough credit, the first one that always comes to my mind is Dr. Satan from House of 1000 Corpses. Rob Zombie's cult classic House of 1000 Corpses that had a lot of trials and error during its production ended up becoming one of the most scary and prolific horror movies of the 2000s. There's one character that always dropped my jaw, and that is S. Quentin Quayle, aka Satan. Only appears briefly in the film. His presence is pretty much the central relevance of the entire film. As we know, a group of young adults are traveling across the country looking for oddities and roadside attractions. When they go to Captain Spaulding's Murder and Mayhem Museum, they get entrenched in the lore and fantasy of who Dr. Satan is. Quayle was a master surgeon, but he was also completely insane. As an intern at Willows County Mental Hospital, he did a wide variety of surgical torture and brain operations. His goal was to turn inmates into a race of superhumans. And because of his sardonic and sickening ways, he inherited the nickname Dr. Satan, and when local townspeople and villagers found out, they came after him. They dragged him into the forest, sentencing death upon him with vigilante justice, and they hung him from a tree. But the next day, when they went to take his body down, Dr. Satan's corpse had disappeared.
Maybe he lives next door to you.
The curiosity and mystery of his disappearance became somewhat of an urban legend within the realm of this franchise. So when Bill and his friends stumble upon Captain Spaulding and they learn about the infamous story of Dr. Satan, they get a map drawn up so they can go solve the great Deadwood mystery, and they stumble upon the sadistic Firefly family, where Otis, the ringleader, tells them exactly who Dr. Satan is.
He'd really like to know. Enlighten
One of the things I love about this character the most is his image. From his grotesque, disturbing nature to his oxygen mask, his very corpse-like appearance, it's so haunting. Rob Zombie himself had suggested that the end scene of House of 1000 Corpses, when the final survivors do see Dr. Satan, is that it's more suggested to be a hallucination than a real-life event. He also claimed that there's an earlier cut of the movie that never got brought to fruition, where Grandpa Hugo, one of the main Firefly villains, was actually dressed up as Dr. Satan and was trying to scare them into thinking Dr. Satan was real, but the movie that they distributed ended up taking the more supernatural approach. Pretty much Uncle Hugo made up the story and told it to Captain Spaulding could lure and trap tourists into going to look for Dr. Satan, and then the Fireflies could pretty much take them and kill them. So it was pretty much this glorious urban legend for murder. But there is a deleted scene on the sequel, The Devil's Rejects, that actually shows Dr. Satan get some revenge, and it's honestly a brutal, intense scene that I wish that was part of the franchise. I feel like my biggest issue with The Devil's Rejects has always been, after how supernatural the first one was, how the sequel really became more grounded, which is fine, but how fantastical and trippy House of 1000 Corpses was, they kind of flipped on its head and just took a different approach, and it kind of ruined the legacy of House of 1000 Corpses for me, especially with how infamous and iconic Dr. Satan is. And though Dr. Satan is such a minorly integrated character in the movie, he has become pretty much a fan favorite. And his legend has gone far and above beyond the existence of the films. And it's pretty much left as a mystery, and that's what makes it so beautiful, to have such an endearing, creepy character with not much backstory around him. It makes people want more. So hopefully one day Rob Zombie does an origin piece about Dr. Satan. The final image that we see of Dr. Satan at the end of House of 1000 Corpses has always terrified me, and it kind of ingrained into my mind as something that traumatized me as a young kid. And to this day, I really am fascinated by the character, and I wish there was more to it. My personal favorite character in the entire Firefly trilogy from Rob Zombie is Otis B. Driftwood. There's very little known about Otis B. Driftwood and his upbringing, but the little glimpse we do have is very quite disturbing. What up, y'all? Welcome back to Fandom of the Indie Review. It's your host, Ratty, and today we are talking about what I just fucking said we were talking about in the intro. We're on the cusp of 3,000 subscribers, so if you want to ride the famous murder ride and have yourself a bag of fried chicken, come and hang out. Legend has it that Otis was born in 1929. He was horribly neglected and abused by his parents, who didn't even give him a name. And he committed his first murder at the age of 14, the victims being his parents. And though there's very little known about that, it is a very disturbing origin. And then he grew up, did some crazy stuff, and that's when he entered into Rugsville, became friends with Captain Spaulding and the family, and created the cult of Firefly, essentially. If you want more in-depth information about that, check out my Captain Spaulding video. I mean, there are so many disturbing things about this movie, from the atmosphere, to the sadistic comedy of the family, and to the very insane supernatural aspect. But personally, one of my favorite parts with Otis is attached to one of the most disturbing scenes in the entire movie, and that is the fish boy scene. I feel like this scene is so much more disturbing in many ways. As we know, the 4 victims that get lured into the Firefly's household all succumb to some great torments, but I feel like Bill, the one that gets turned into the fish boy, gets it the worst. Just the sheer imagery of the fish boy just traumatized me as a kid. You know, I love our boy Rainn Wilson from things such as The Office, The Rocker. A phenomenal actor, a very stand-up gentleman, but he gets tormented in this movie brutally. But since Otis's murderous tendency merged Bill into this fish boy that's very supernatural and dark and like sideshow attraction-y terrifying, just really struck a nerve. Liking these videos go a long way. And Otis is such a very interesting character with his monologues, his little homemade video vlogs that he makes throughout the movie, his psychotic and crazy mind that is self-indulged and thinks that it's more genius than what anyone else has to say, very narcissistic psychopath behavior, but deeply rooted in some crazy shit. One of the scariest parts to me is the reveal. Essentially, yeah, the 4 victims of the Fireflies get put through hell the entire movie. Denise, she gets tortured by knowing her father's dead. Jerry gets mentally tormented, and Mary has probably one of the most actual visceral, brutal kills of the movie. But the fact that they start off with Fishboy as the main one, it's the most interesting and scary in concept. And the fact that Mary is sitting there tied up in her chair and has to witness her boyfriend displayed to her in some sort of freak show attraction is very haunting. And now I have an irrational fear of the song Brick House. It's supposed to be a fun, seductive, chill song that you dance in the club with your boys with. And now every time I hear, she's a brick house, I get fucking shivers down my spine. And Otis goes on to be such an influential character throughout the trilogy, changing more so in The Devil's Reject. Rob Zombie changed him to be more grounded for that movie, because as we know, that movie has more of a grounded reality to it. But in the first one, it's clear to see that our man Otis B is albino, and he said in the first movie he was very cartoony and villainous, and in the second movie he decided to make him more gritty. And I feel like Otis, as this ringleader, has this control over this family, but obviously it's not like a Stockholm Syndrome thing where they were influenced by him. They were just as crazy. I mean, look at Captain Spaulding's history. It's just a bunch of random madmen formed a family. I feel like one of the most unnerving aspects of the fact that Bill gets tortured and killed this way right out the gates after they let the other 3 survive is the fact that when they do break down and go to the house and Baby is kind of flirting with him and crushing on him, it is very uneasy. I feel like in any other situation you'd see that, and yes, he was taken, he is dating Mary, he is a bit socially awkward, he is nerdy and respectful, but the fact that we see him being flirted with and like gawked at and made to be eye candy by Baby is very haunting and disturbing in the context of the film. It's like they knew that he had something about him, more backbone and structure than the other characters, that they just picked him off right off the bat. And I always found that interaction with him and Baby to be very disturbing. Especially nowadays with dating and shit, you're on Tinder, if people are flirting with you and being nice, what if they're like trying to fuck with you? That's a whole different story entirely. And the brutality of Fishboy is such a strong and lasting scene. Like, the imagery of it is just quality content. It's brutal. It's scary. But yeah, Otis really does flirt that line of charming and deranged as hell. Bill Moseley was the perfect casting for this character, and I'm really glad that he was introduced into this franchise. I really loved him as Chop Top in the Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2. So if you want me to do a video about Chop Top or all of Bill Moseley's characters, comment down below. If you want me to do a video about the expansion of the Fireflies, I've been talking a lot about House of a Thousand Corpses. If you want me to do the Devil's Rejects, let a boy know. The comment section's there for a reason. It's a graveyard right now. House of a Thousand Corpses has so many disturbing natures to it. From the trippy cutscene of the skunk ape, to the sardonic torment of the Firefly family themselves. But the one thing that I found to be most horrific in my opinion, especially as I grew older watching this movie, was the killing of Dawn Willis, the caring and dedicated father to main character Denise, who meets his tragic demise. What's up, y'all? Welcome back to Phantom of the India Review. It is your host, Ratty, and today we are talking about a very gut-wrenching scene to me from this movie that I've been doing a lot. If you have yet to subscribe, please do. We are on our journey for 3,000 subscribers and we're almost there. So if you want to dress up like a bunny and run, rabbit, run, then come hang out. One of the most impactful parts of horror is a familial bondage between characters, the glue that kind of has the audience supporting for a character to live. But the irony in this movie specifically for me is that though they want us to care about Denise and her friends, we end up caring about Dawn, her father, a lot more. Even though Dawn has a very short amount of screen time. After Denise and her friends get ambushed and kidnapped by the Firefly family, we fully meet Dawn. The first time we see Dawn in this movie is when Denise gives him a call in the middle of the night, letting him know that they're stuck in a rainstorm and they might be home late. Next morning on Halloween, after we see what happens to the victims, we get more of Dawn Willis. Denise doesn't come home. Dawn calls the police to report her missing. 2 deputies, George Wydell and Steve Nash, find the couple's abandoned car in a field with a dead, mutilated cheerleader in the trunk. Dawn happened to be a former retired policeman, and he's called to the scene to help the deputies search. They arrive at the Firefly's property. In this scene where you kind of think the good guys are gonna win a little bit, gets blown out of proportion intensely. Wydell questions Mother Firefly about the missing teens. The scene builds and they find a little shed with a bunch of dead bodies in it. Mother Firefly shoots Wydell in the head and kills him. Otis sneaks up, ambushes them, and kills them both. Dawn's dedication as a father and a former policeman is such a grounded and solid performance. Like, yes, he's looking for his daughter, but he also remains, and he's very close to the case. Sometimes emotions get too attached. We see in movies when a police officer has their emotions attached to a case, it doesn't turn out good, but he seems to be grounded and dedicated to finding his daughter. And once Dawn gets killed, it shows that there is very little hope in this movie. And then this leads to the most gut-wrenching scene of the movie, in my opinion. Denise, Jerry, and Mary are all dressed up like rabbits to essentially be sacrificed and slaughtered by the Firefly family. As they're taken down into the living room down the stairs, Denise gets almost a false sense of hope when she sees a glimpse of who she believes is her father. Then the sick game is revealed that it is just her father's dead, skinned flesh placed over Otis's face as Otis torments Denise. Such a graphic and emotionally charged scene, in my opinion. Oftentimes in horror, the director allows us to kind of get a false sense of hope throughout the movie, allowing characters to meet up. Like, for example, in other movies, the dad would find his daughter a little bit. Maybe they would have a scene together where they see each other one last time before one of them gets killed. But in this movie, Zombie is so diabolical at directing that the dad just gets killed off, and it really shows how diabolical and depraved the Fireflies really are. And like I said, the more I watch this movie, that scene always gets to me. It really packs a punch. Like, I couldn't imagine something like that, having a family member going missing, and on your way to find them, you get no closure, no understanding, you just get killed along the way. That's very terrifying in my opinion. And that's why I find this scene to be one of the most interesting parts of the movie. Alright guys, thank you so much for watching. That was a fun episode all around. I got some more House of a Thousand Corpses, Devil's Rejects, 3 from Hell content coming very soon. We're locking in on this channel. Happy Halloween. I love y'all so much. Of all time, and y'all know, like, no questions asked is the introduction to the film House of 1,000 Corpses. And say what you want about Rob Zombie. I don't understand how that got there. Cool.
Hey Dick, what's the big idea? Blood, you just go around everyone's fucking house and steal their Chucky dolls?
This isn't your Chucky doll. I grew this with my Pepsi seed juice.
Thank God that was a gift. That's Spirit Halloween, believe it or not.